and this one was sent in by email from Janik Litalian, one of those two. Janik sent us an email saying he's just sick and tired of hearing from his left-wing friends about white privilege and so on, and he doesn't really know exactly how to fire back at them. And basically, Janik's question was, how do I deal with white privilege? And he sent like a snippet of comments from Facebook, looks like. So I'll just read a little bit of them for you so we can have a good jumping off point, because this is the kind of thing that really is got to come to an end. Here it comes, downloading. Let's have a look, zoom in. Okay, so what Janik sent me was a little strip of comments from Facebook, and there's a picture of these. There's two white men in. You know what? Can I just? No, I can't. There's two white men in it looks like an airport, just sitting there in an airport, and the post is not from Janik. The post he's reacting to is from somebody named Mulan Katie. Shared France 24's English post, and basically here's what the post says. Just 500 meters from my home in Hong Kong, I see a young white guy begging for travel funds with 3 kids no older than 5. Were those even his kids? Ironically, in one of the poorest districts in Hong Kong. Had he not been white, he would have been questioned for child neglect. Ultimate white privilege. So let's talk a little bit about white privilege. If I understand this person's comment, what she's saying is two foreigners, two white people are sitting there with a bunch of kids and they're begging for money, and that's their white privilege is that they weren't arrested. So what that seems to indicate to me was that if they were not white, if they were the people that live in Hong Kong as a general rule, if they were Asian people, then they would have been arrested. So this entire white privilege thing here is based on the idea that this white guy or two white guys can sit there with 3 kids no older than 5 and not get arrested for begging for money, while presumably, if those people had been Asian, they would have been arrested. Now, I don't know, just call me naive, but my understanding throughout pretty much all of human history, and I haven't seen it change yet, is that if you had to decide which people are hold life, individual life, to a higher standard than others, it may not be everybody in Hong Kong. I know Hong Kong is a very civilized place, but it's not the United States that treats people like cogs. It's the Chinese people that do that. It's the Chinese people that do things like abandon baby girls and selectively abort baby girls so they can have little boys. So let's just start from the beginning here and understand that this entire idea that Asian people would have been arrested because of this horrible kids sitting on the floor here, apparently. Just that in itself is absurd and ridiculous. And that's just the lead-in. I want to talk about white privilege. I really do. I really, really do. Let me see if there's anything else there. Okay, so here's what it is. Now, I know you guys are going to think you're going to think I'm going to say there's no such thing as white privilege, but there is actually such a thing as white privilege. And let me explain to you what white privilege is. White privilege is the gift of not having somebody else to blame. That's white privilege. Maybe we can get that on a t-shirt. White privilege is the gift of not having someone else to blame. Whenever you hear people talk about, in the United States especially, if you hear people talk about being kept down, that there's external forces at work trying to keep them down, you know you're dealing with somebody who's either very lazy, very stupid, or both. Any time that you can write an excuse for your failures is, we know what this is. Not only is this white privilege, but there's an antithetical aspect to it, which is spreading like cancer because of these social justice warriors. But if the white privilege is that you do not get to blame other people for your mistakes, that there's no one keeping you down, because there isn't, then the converse is true also, to the degree that the black community talks about being kept down by white racists here in America, then you would call that the black disadvantage. Now, neither of these things exist. Neither of them exist. And for those of you that say it does, oh, what do you mean you don't know, you don't believe racism exists? That's because you're a white male. Let me ask you a quick question here, Snowflake. If you had to apply for any university in the country and you were a white Christian male, 18 years old, trying to get into Harvard, and opposite you, final two slots, one slot available left for Harvard. You're a white Christian male from Alabama, and up against you is a Palestinian lesbian, and we can add all the other suffixes that we want to. Who do you think would selectively be admitted to Harvard University in 2017? Who do you think? We all know what the answer to that is. And we don't complain about it because we have the white privilege of not having other people to blame for our failures. We don't get to sit around and stay in college forever and ever and ever and do nothing in the world, not have a single skill, not have a single ability, not be able to build anything, can't even do your own laundry. Can't even do your own laundry. You can't manage a bank account. You can't drive. You have no driver's license. You can't do anything, you social justice warriors. The first warriors are faint dead away at the sight of a paring knife sitting on the counter. But you can't do anything. And I know you can't do anything, and you know you can't do anything. It bothers you in an obscure way that you can't do anything, because the only thing that you can do is complain and look for racism. So here's how it works, social justice warriors. You're incompetent, you're lazy, you're stupid, you're pampered, you're spoiled, you've never been told no, you know nothing about the world, nothing about the world. All you know how to do is protest because that's all you've been taught. I will go and say that it's not your fault, but, there's the weapon, you picked it up. So since you can't do anything, and since other people can do things, you have to think of some good reason for why people can't do things, and also to justify your basically useless existence. So this all works out very well for you. Your job now, entire generation of social justice warriors, your job in life is not to be a medical technician or an engineer or a bus driver or a janitor or anything else useful. Your job in life is to look for racism, and if it doesn't exist, you will invent it. So, you have created a belief in people that they are being held down by the white power structure. But if there's a member of the white power structure in the United States of America, I'm on it. And either I didn't get the memo or the checks or anything, because I have no memory ever of being in collusion with anybody to foster racism. No, I don't. Maybe I was just so busy snorting cocaine off of Ukrainian hookers that I just forgot about my weekly meetings of the Let's Keep Down Black People white privilege meeting, which they have just at the side of every single one of the American Legion posts. We run them out on Wednesday nights, right after the Stratosphere Lounge thing goes. So if you cannot prove institutional racism, and you can't because there isn't any, because it's against the law. It's against the law. What you're doing is you are attaching something beyond your ability, which is a privilege that you don't have. You're creating this magical, mystical thing that doesn't exist. Because there is in fact a difference between us and you. There is in fact a difference, and the difference is we are responsible for our own lives, and you're not. So SJWs. Pretty simple, really. You have to call us racists who benefit unfairly from a system because you simply can't do anything. You're not good at anything. And somebody else is good at things, so there's got to be a reason for it. It can't just be that you're lazy or stupid, even though you're lazy and stupid. So you invent something and you go looking for it. But by any practical measure in terms of hiring, in terms of compensation, in terms of, look at the admission records of every single university in this country, look at it for the last 20 years and ask yourself, who's being discriminated against here? Ask yourself, what is the one single group of people that the entire American society is allowed to criticize mercilessly at any time, anywhere? Who's the only people that don't have an escape? It's white males, basically. And I'm perfectly happy with that, because the more complaining you do, and the more crying about this thing that doesn't exist you do, the easier it gets for the rest of us and our kids. So march on. You're going to be in for a bit of a surprise about a lot of things, though. And one of the things you're going to be a bit surprised about as time goes on is you're going to be surprised that the word warrior has a meaning beyond the rhetorical meaning. You're going to be surprised that that's an actual occupation. And not only is it an actual occupation, you'll be surprised in life as life goes on for you. You'll be surprised that not only is it an occupation, warrior is a hobby for a lot of people. And it's not just a name that you put on a t-shirt or a sign. It's an actual occupation, and it's a state of mind. And you don't have it. None of you have it. None of you. You Antifa cowards, none of you. You don't have any courage. You don't have any physical courage. You don't have any moral courage. You know perfectly well that by smashing windows in cars in the United States of America, the worst thing that could happen to you is you get arrested and you spend 3 or 4 hours in jail. You're not brave. You don't have any courage. That's not courage. That's just hooliganism. That's just a kid on the floor at Walmart stamping and screaming because he didn't get his toy. So don't be looking for respect, and don't be looking for this thing. You can look. I know I can't change your mind. You miserable, low-life weasels. You lazy, stupid people. I got to think of SJWs. Just 1 second here. I've almost got it. Anyway, I'll think of some great other words for the initials SJW. But you're certainly not moral privilege. So if you can show me a case where a white person has selectively been treated better than a black person, I'm looking forward to hearing it. If you can show me an instance, any instance where in the pop culture where black people are made fun of and white people aren't, if you want to try that, you go ahead. If you want to show me a case where there's people openly speaking about racism, you go ahead. You are pretending that there's a locked door in front of you. And the reason you're pretending there's a locked door in front of you is because you're too stupid and too lazy to get up and start walking. So you gotta come up with something. And by the way, that's not just you and by the way, you social justice warriors, every single one of you are privileged pampers, little crybabies. Every single one. You don't even know what the term social justice warrior is unless you're going to a college that costs $70,000 a year. So you don't get to be you're not street people, okay? You're not out there on the streets. You just want to feel like you're out there on the streets. You want to steal. You want to talk about appropriation? You want to steal the legitimacy of street people, and you want to try and steal the legitimacy of the civil rights movement, which was 50, 60 years ago. And no, you don't get it. Sorry. The reason you're called social justice warriors is because we are out of injustice. The United States ran out of injustice back in the mid to late 70s, and by early 1980s, injustice supplies were gone in America. We had passed peak injustice probably around 1968, and since then you've been manufacturing your own synthetic injustice to justify your existence because you can't do anything. You're not good at anything. You're not even okay at anything. You don't know how to do the laundry. You can't drive a car. You don't know how to tell time. You're the most ridiculous, absolutely pathetic group of people I've ever seen. And all of this is simply puffing yourself up to give you a sense of entitlement because this is the only place that you're allowed to compete. You're not allowed to compete in sports. You're not allowed to compete in nationality. You're not allowed to compete in anything. You're not allowed to say anything's better than anything else. But the only thing you can compete on is who's the biggest victim. And let me just give you one last little memo here, SJWs, because I think this might do you some good. God knows you're not going to listen to it because the one thing you've proven to everybody in this country and the world is that you are incapable of learning anything. You are so wrapped up in your own moral vanity that you can't see anything. So let me just say this. Be careful about starting fights with people that take the word warrior seriously. I would do that, number one. And number two, you do not get the opportunity to tell other people how they're going to live. You can whine and complain all you want to, but it has just as much effect as all of the protests you launched against Donald Trump being president. And that is zero. And I'm at the point, slack-jawed wussies, very good, Ken Finney, very good. You young ladies out there, ladies, you can scream and shriek and talk about this is oppressing me and I'm not safe here and start crying and all the rest. And you can even start swatting people, which we allow. We allow it. In fact, I'm in the mood to make a social justice warrior's head explodes. Let me just say a word to the social justice warriors out there, because I know there's millions watching the show. This is something I brought up before. And listen, I don't bring these things up with actual ladies and because I don't need to. I don't need to. I just bring it up when it needs to be brought up to confront people like you with your own moral infarctions or whatever the word is. Here's something for you, little pink-haired feminists and the men that love them. Men. I know you think that feminism is a battle, and I know that you feel like going up there and saying, you know, we equal rights and we got to stop Trump and all the rest. I know it makes you feel important, but you're not important because there's no risk. You're protesting, but you're protesting against nothing. So you don't get any respect. But here's something for you, young feminist. I generally, as I say, I don't have to go around saying this, and my attitude towards this is similar to my attitude towards transgendered people, which is if somebody wants me to call them miss or ma'am, I'm perfectly happy to do that. It's no skin off of my nose. I don't care. I get along with people. I'm a nice guy. And I am happy to be a member of a functioning society where everybody is allowed to play. And if you want me to call you Caitlin, I'm happy to do it. I really am. Now, if you are going to make me say that not only is my name Caitlin, but I am in fact a woman, that's where we break company. That's where we go down different paths. Because if I agree to that, then I'm agreeing to things that I know to be not true, which is your entire philosophy of life. You agree to believe in things you know aren't true. And white privilege is one of them. So, let me see if I can get this straight. Here we go. For all of you young feminists out there, just think about this, please. Feminism exists because men allow it to exist. Should I say that again for you? Feminism exists because decent men allow it to exist. And the answer to that question doesn't really make you very happy, does it? You would say, how dare you say that? I say, well, it's very simple. If we didn't allow it to exist, if we were in fact like the people that you defend over in the Middle East, once you started lipping off, we'd put a fist in your face. And what would you do about it? Nothing, because you're girls and you can't fight like boys. You know this. And the so-called males that are with you who are defending all of your feminist rights know this too. But the fact is, we could just simply stop you by force if we wanted to. And we don't. And you could say, I'd call the police. And you'd be right. And other males would come to take away the males who are not letting you be feminists. But it's all a construct that we allow you to have because we're nice guys. Because if we weren't nice guys, like people in Saudi Arabia, let's say, we wouldn't put up with this. We wouldn't put up with this at all. We'd get you back in the kitchen and put a tent over you, like the people you're so deeply in love with. Then that'd be the end of it. And there's nothing you can do about it because you can't fight. And you could say something like, well, we would get guns. Please. 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 We both know how ridiculous that is. You don't know which end of the gun the bullet comes out of, for God's sake. We allow you to be feminists because we're good men, because we value people's ability to be equal. To the degree that it's equal pay for equal work, I am 100% feminist, but that's not what feminism means anymore. We all know it. So, there you go. Be careful about meeting real warriors as you walk down the road of life, and keep in the back of your little minds the fact that your entire feminist idea of yourself, your entire identity is something that people like me allow you to have. And if a lot of people like me decided that we didn't want you to have it, then you wouldn't have it. Kind of stings, doesn't it? And if you still think I'm a little crazy about that, I hate to rub this in because I genuinely love women and I adore my wife and all the rest of it. But if you think I'm making all this up, just do this. Go and look at Olympic records for the strongest woman and the fastest woman. Go and see. And compare them to the records of any males in any college and in most high schools. And you're going to find that virtually every single high school in America has a boy on it, a boy, 15, 16 years old, who's faster than the fastest woman who ever lived. And stronger, too. The reason SJWs, that there's a women Olympics, is because if there wasn't a women's Olympics, there wouldn't be any women at the Olympics in sports that require strength or speed. Obviously, things like shooting or sports of skill that don't require physical strength or speed, they certainly can compete. But there wouldn't be any women pole vaulters, because if you look at the bottom guy, in the Olympics, who's the worst pole vaulter of the 2016 Olympics? His height is much better than the best woman in the world. So there you go. I know you don't like it, and as I say, I don't like doing this because it doesn't make me happy. This is not what we're supposed to be doing with each other, not just men towards women. We're supposed to be admiring each other and taking care of each other. But if you want to stand up there and make statements like this, saying that these two people sitting on a floor, slackers, by the way, who are basically begging money to travel, are not being arrested because they're white. No. So there is your answer for you, Janet, and I hope that does you some good.